Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs. Oh my God, my hair is all over the place. Guess I got a little excited while I was dancing when the music was playing. And welcome to the Daily Beaver Morning Show, Season 5 and episode number 766. Do, 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 do. Always 100% Canadian, and I am a little washed out here, so I will fix the light. There we go. That should be better. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. We have a show for you today. Oh boy, there's a lot that's been going on. Hope you are doing okay. How is your mental health doing today, kids and cubs? I'm doing fine, I have to say. I'm starting to catch up on some sleep that I've missed, so I'm feeling less tired, which is nice. Rehearsals are going very well, and we definitely have a really good show coming. So those of you who have bought tickets and who are coming, um, yay! I think you're going to be in for a treat. It's because it's a classic musical. It's way different than "We Will Rock You" when we did it. When we did that, so we have and it requires different skill sets because it's different type of singing. So we have some really spectacular vocalists, and the dance numbers are more intricate in this one, and some very good quality dancers here in the show. So we're getting to the point now where we're starting to put things together. I think next week is the week where we start rehearsing with the band a little bit, rather than just some person on piano or with a recorded rehearsal tracks. So it will definitely take a notch up, but we are starting to put full scenes together with acting and the musical numbers in them and all that kind of stuff. And while they're still clunky at the moment, and they're a little messy, you can see the potential in there. And once we get things tightened up and cleaned up, and it's looking really nice. Yesterday was 1 month before opening, so we got 4 weeks to get it all right. Biting the nails. But yes, everything is going well there. Although I have to admit, I'm a little tired, and I knew I would be as the start of the curling season came along, because it's all of a sudden with the musical and with curling, I'm adding I don't know, God, easily 20 hours to my week occupied with activities that were normally free, either just for rest, or preparing more stuff for the show, or just time dedicated to my beaver sweetie, or other pursuits that we would like to engage in. So it's a very busy period for the next 6 weeks, in particular, the 4 weeks of rehearsals and the 2 weeks of the show. And then I get back to a little bit of a normal schedule for this time of year with just my curling a few times a week. But I'm how would I put it? It's a bit of a juggling act, being able to fit all the pieces together and make sure that you still get enough rest because it's easy to wear yourself down. And right now is where you don't want to get a cold or something like that, as you're starting to up the rehearsals, and we're at more and more rehearsals where the entire company is there. So rather than just a specific scene, so you definitely don't want to take out the whole group with the cold, right? So, so yeah, have to manage the energy, make sure that you're eating well and staying well hydrated and resting well, so that you're not too tired. Because we have no understudies, and to be totally honest, I still find it really amazing after all these years of doing community musical theater that we keep on doing these shows without understudies, and we still haven't after all these years I've been doing that, have lost a show or a couple nights of performance or whatnot because somebody has fallen sick or had an accident or something of the sort. Because it seems I found out that just renting the theater where we're going to be performing, because we're doing 12 shows, but we're doing 12 shows over 8 days. So Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, the theater is dark, but all our stuff is in there right in between the 2 weeks of shows. So we pay for those nights anyway, and then we move in a couple of days before, so we're not performing. So all the nights that we actually do have the theater, I think it's coming to about $17,000. So if the lead gets laryngitis or something, um, I. Like I said, I'm amazed that we don't have understudies. So, because it's still a big investment for a community group. But yeah, things are going really, really, really well so far, and I'm very excited about this opportunity. And the show looks like it is going to be amazing. And yeah, I'm so excited. I'm excited to be doing it. I'm excited for my friends and fans and family who are going to be coming to see it, because I think you will be definitely getting your money's worth and you will have a wonderful night of entertainment. Yay! All right. And what else? Oh, yes. Some of the most important things here. My mental health is particularly good today because we are celebrating things. Belatedly, we are celebrating Kit Toronto Dan, who had a birthday on the 19th. I hope your birthday celebrations were wonderful. And today, kids and cubs, it's a very special day at the Beaver Lodge because our very own, our much adored, our much appreciated Kit Mateo, who greets us every morning with every show, is celebrating, I believe, his 8th birthday today, according to the news reports on the chat. Doot, 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 doot. This just in. Mateo is unwrapping birthday presents as the show started, and seems to be very, very happy. So, my friend, from all of us here at the Beaver Lodge, I'm taking you in my arms and I'm giving you a big, 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 big birthday hug. Oh, a big beaver birthday hug. Happy birthday, my friend. I hope that you have a fantastic day. I hope that you get to spend some time with friends. I hope that there's cake and that it is delicious. And I hope that you enjoy your presence and time with your family and everyone that loves you. All right? Happy birthday. Hey, kids and cubs, why don't we sing to Mateo right now? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mateo. Happy birthday to you and many more. Are you one? Are you two? Are you three? Are you four? Are you five? Are you six? Are you seven? Are you eight? Okay, I think I heard stop. Ah, what a wonderful uh, time. Happy birthday, my friend. And hey, we're also celebrating because, again, surprise. Well, the bags under my eyes are a little big, but I stayed up and I watched the game. Yes, yes, yes. Despite the fact that I am a jinx, I could not stay away. I had to watch. Of course, the Blue Jays, they did it. They are going to the World Series, kids and Cubs. It was quite a ride getting there, losing the first two games at home, winning two in Seattle, and staying in Seattle for a fifth game, which it seemed they had on lock until the bottom of the eighth. They were leading, and then a very interesting decision by the manager in terms of changing pitchers led to the fact that well, the opposing team scored five in the eighth, and that made it such that the Jays came back to Toronto down 3-2 in the series, and both the manager took a lot of heat for that, both the pitcher as well. I don't think the pitcher really deserved it. I mean, he's yeah, not the manager's the one that put him in, uh, allegedly under the pretense that he wanted to show hitters something different, even though uh, the pitcher chosen, considering recent records and stuff like that, may not have been the most judicious choice, particularly since it appears that there were other options to show something different that may have come from a source that perhaps might have recently had better performances. But I'm sure the pitcher himself probably wants to shrink into the smallest person or thing imaginable on the planet and hope that nobody notices him. But I don't blame the pitcher. The pitcher is not the person who stopped the game and said, "Put me in. I think I can do this." Right? It was the manager that said, "You're going in now," and put that responsibility on him. The manager took his lumps, though. Uh, you know, uh, I have to give credit where it's due. Took his lumps, and the Jays came back in Game 6 and made sure that there would be a Game 7. And the Jays, as it seems to be, according to form, according to the season, based on what I've been hearing, even though they were trailing in the series and even though they were trailing 3-1 in the match at one point, once again came from behind. They seem to be the team in the league that has come from behind the most often this season after trailing in the sixth to win the game. There was a beautiful 3-run homer by Springer that gave the Jays the lead and eventually secured the match for them. And there was also in Game 5 a little bit of a scare because it seemed that Springer took a ball to the knee. And well, he's the first in the batting rotation, so he's kind of important. But the Jays did what the Jays are known to do. I saw some interviews with some fans at one point, and even before Game 6, was certain that the Jays would win Game 6 and absolutely certain that the Jays would win Game 7 because that's just what they do this year. Well, turns out that fans' faith was very, very well placed, knows his team well. So we have to wait till Friday, and hopefully that will give the Jays some time to rest. But if I am not mistaken, oh, I actually, oh my God, that's so terrible. I forgot off the top of my head who it is that they are facing next. That is terrible. If I'm not mistaken, it's the Dodgers. Yes, the Los Angeles Dodgers. I was going to say the Yankees, but they faced them in the first round, so I knew that that was not possible. And I always get confused with the Dodgers because I know they're Los Angeles, but I still well, I can't say I remember the days of because I'm not necessarily a baseball fan, and I'm not even sure. See, I know so little about baseball. I don't even know when the Brooklyn Dodgers became the LA Dodgers. I can't even remember if that was before I was born or not. Oh my God, I'm so terrible. I told you, total, total, total uh, bandwagon rider here. Okay, yes, it was before I was born. I was about to confidently say it happened before I was born, but I figured I would check that out just in case because, you know, um, your eager beaver likes to be right. So, which is why I make a point of trying to check my information as much as possible because I don't like being wrong. It's really a vanity thing more than anything else, to be totally honest, kids and cups. So yes, absolutely a great match. There was a couple times when we got to around the fifth or the sixth, and the Mariners were still leading 3-1. I thought, maybe I should turn it off and give them a chance to win. But I did the next best thing. What I did is I let the game play ahead. So I wasn't watching it exactly live, would let it go ahead about like 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'd come in and then I'd watch it, taking out the commercials in between. Then I would catch up to where it was live. So um, uh, technically, I wasn't watching live at the precise moment they won. I was maybe about a minute or two behind. So I figured that way I removed the jinx. But I really wanted to know because I didn't want to be left out of the conversation. I wanted to know what happened because I figured everybody would be talking about it, and then I would be the only one who doesn't know what they're talking about. Sort of like Games of Thrones. I didn't watch anything of it, and everybody was talking about it, and I had no idea what was going on. I felt so left out. But yeah, as a kid to James here says, the Jays looked great. So yeah, uh, we've got a lot to cheer for, kids and cubs. It's a great time here in the country. Let's take a look to see at who's with us today, kids and cubs, because the chat is definitely well underway. We have Kit Elaine saying good morning, as well as Kit playing with 3D here. Kit Tabby G also saying good morning, as well as Kit Uncover in the chat. Kit Uncover with the beaver joke this morning. Why did the beaver invite the Portland frog as a guest on the interview project? Because he wanted a riveting discussion. I like that. That is a good one. 25 beaver points. I like that. A riveting discussion. I love it. Okay, let's see who else do we have here. We have Grace with us saying good morning. We have Hyper T007 go. Ela dice adeus. Parabéns, George Springer e os Blue Jays. Bom dia a todos. Quem assistiu o jogo ontem à noite. À noite, I believe. I do not. I know that Hyper T in a later tweet expressed confidence in my ability to decipher this. Unfortunately, no, no, sorry. I don't. I haven't been able to figure that one on my own. Sorry. Oh darn. Uh, my Portuguese isn't that good. Sorry, but hopefully my pronunciation was okay. Let's see who do we have here as well. We have Miss Shadake here with us. Good morning to you and to family. We also have the Breens with us. Good morning to you, my friends. And they are also wishing happy birthday to Mateo. Everybody in the DAMFAM is wishing happy birthday to Kit Mateo. We have Kit Nona Carol WD here. Good morning. And was it you yesterday? I saw in the chat. It's like a Nona who doesn't cook, who doesn't like to or enjoy cooking. Ah, shock. Ah. See, you can't rely on stereotypes. You can't rely on stereotypes. Oh man. Let's see who else do we have here in the chat. Just looking. Lots of names. Kit Bowan is here as well. Good morning to you, fine sir, and good morning to Rain and Jazzy as well. Why not say hello to the whole family? We have Kit Nona with us saying happy Tuesday, everyone, and happy Tuesday to you. Well, we'll go through the chat as well. Kit Hyper T going, I love BJs. We cheeky, we cheeky. We have Kit Tabby G here mentioning Elizabeth May. I think you will be happy because we have some clips of her on today's show. Kit Tabby G. Kit Argosi Acres is with us as well, laughing and having a good time. And who else do we have? Kit Wishful is with us. Good morning and sharing some coffee with the Damn Fam. Good morning to you. And going down the list still. Kitland M saying good morning and good morning to you, dear one. I hope you are doing well today. We have Kitty Bad. Hey, good morning. Nice to see you. How have you been? It's nice to see you. It's been, I think, a few weeks since we've seen you on the chat. It's nice to have you with us. I like it when people drop in. It's so nice. Uh, I feel like that Canadian thing. It's sort of like I know I only have mustard, eggs, and two cold cuts in the fridge, but you're staying for dinner, right? Right? Oh my god. We have Kit Hyper T saying that Bo Bichette might be returning for the World Series matches. So that would be a good addition to the Jays lineup, although it seems that they're not suffering so much without him at the moment. So there you go. Um, who else do we have here? James with us. There we go. James expressing some confidence in the Dodgers, however, in the final series. My question was more on the pitching, just because the thing that happened in the first match and then yesterday, they were rotating through the bullpen a lot, and can you do a best of 7 World Series final against the Dodgers while rotating the bullpen that much? Or do hopefully it might be a rest thing, and these extra days before Friday will give the time for the bullpen's arms to uh, regenerate a little bit. But that's been my only thing. But I don't know anything about the Dodgers pitching. All I know is that the Jays series went to 7, and the Dodgers series definitely did not take as long. I believe in a straight 4 against the Brewers, who were ranked number 1 in their section coming in. So it seems that the Dodgers are particularly hot at the moment. So it's definitely going to be an interesting series. You got Kitland M saying, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." Here, and I tend to agree with that as well. When you get in this type of situation, you get a certain vibe and momentum going, and sometimes it's not. How would I put it? Good to add add new elements, right? Not to change too many variables here. And of course, yes, Dodgers. Whoever, when you say Dodgers, you say Otani. So yes, definitely a threat there. That's one thing I did know about baseball. Uh, is that guy Otani is just he's just not human for all intents and purposes. Who else do we have here in the chat with us? Is that everybody? Did I get everybody today? No, Kit Donna here saying good morning. And as a joke, what's red and smells like blue paint? Red paint. Boom. We have Kit Swanky Frankie celebrating, going Canada in the house, World Series. Yes, indeed. And so is Kit Mel C. Hey, how are you? Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what you want, what you really, really want. I can't help it. I love it that we have a celebrity in the chat with us. Who else do we have here? Oh my God, Kits and Cubs, you are chatty this morning. It's just going crazy. Kit Jenny is here saying morning, everyone. There we go. And Chris, hey, sorry I'm late. Good morning. You're not late. It's there's a lot of people here in the chat. We're at 25 minutes in the show. Kit, Mr. Jim is here. Good morning to you. Please give a big hug to Mama Lori for me. And Mr. Jim is the last one, since we're talking about the Jays, sliding across the plate, safe to get a greeting from the Beaver Lodge this morning. All right, let's get into it, Kits and Cubs. Clean up on Al Pierre, as you as we have. I think we've discussed. I've been talking about it a lot. I think I've mentioned it on the show. I think Pierre's comments recently about the RCMP. Yes, I did. I mentioned it on Friday's show, although I did not have the clips. That's what I was missing. So yes, Um, about the RCMP, it has created a certain amount of consternation. Um, Thankfully, because I was going to say predictably, but in this day and age where people, particularly in politics, are saying the absolute worst things uh, pretty much constantly all the time about everybody else and putting the worst possible frame on most situations for there to actually be some accountability. It seems that there is indeed a line and he appears that he has crossed it. And because I'm starting to wonder, um, how would he put it? Um, that there was no line anymore, but we couldn't agree on anything. But yeah, yes, Kipinse Bio. I guess this is the cleanup from the Weirdo podcast he did accusing the RCMP. Yes, with a northern perspective. Indeed, definitely. The those very very weird comments, unacceptable comments, disqualifying comments. Because saying those comments, um, for what Pierre said to be true, right? Stating that there was a cover up by the RCMP and the leadership of the RCMP is despicable in order to protect liberals. And not only to protect liberals, but to, oh, um, cover up liberal crime. And you'll notice this with the conservatives now. They're in this branding exercise where everything is liberal something. We had Jamil Javani uh, yesterday, I think it was, on Facebook, talking something about are you ready to combat liberal racism with me? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, liberal racism? Like, wait, what? It's like we need to rebrand racism in 2025. It's not good enough now to just be good old fashioned racism. Now it's now liberal racism. Because if you're talking about liberal racism, and given that racism is a thing pretty much everywhere, I'm going to guess that there's such thing as conservative racism and BQ racism. I know that that's a fact because I've been at the receiving end of it personally. NDP racism, green racism, but I wonder why Jamil doesn't want to confront those types of racism too. He's only interested in confronting liberal racism. That seems weird to me. Here's right now. This is sweet. It's time to confront liberal racism. Are you ready? Now, here's the thing, however. If Jamil Javani really wanted to combat racism, shouldn't he start with the leader of his own party, who claims to be against DEI, but named not one but two deputy leaders as soon as he became leader? One, a lesbian woman who happens to be Jewish, and a Sikh man who is clearly not white. And as I mentioned, wears what some people in Quebec would call an ostentatious religious symbol on his head. Maybe he should ask his allegedly anti DEI leader, who hired those two people as deputy leaders, and they are still his deputy leaders to this day, and who, upon becoming leader, gave titles and positions to like over 80 people in his just over 100 member caucus, and he gave a title and a position to everyone pretty much except Jamil. Now, I don't know if you noticed because some people don't notice color, but I've noticed that Jamil and Pierre don't exactly have the same skin color. And Jamil did not get a title or a position. Maybe the racist is your party leader. Maybe. Ask him. Why don't you ask your white boss why he didn't give you a better job? Just asking. Just wondering. There. Hmm. So, yeah, conservatives claiming things and wanting to run with them. So, yeah, Pierre saying that there is liberal corruption, liberal crime. And again, I always laugh when I hear conservatives talking about liberal corruption, liberal crime. If you hadn't noticed online, I think 2 days ago, the 19th of October, Justin Trudeau tweeted 10 years ago today, I became prime minister. And then that tweet alone just caused a meltdown, right, on the political right. So, a whole bunch of things. You lying something, whatever, and blah blah blah, and all these type of things. You were the worst government in history. You're the most corrupt. And it's like, dudes, the government immediately preceding the one you're referring to, that's Harper's, right? Um, how would I put it? You got people like Michelle Rumpel Gardner going, "Today I give gratitude for Stephen Harper who did this, 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 and this," and it's sort of like, "Oh yes, so we are going to forget that the 2008 crisis that he got us through was several orders of magnitude lesser than the COVID economic crisis that Trudeau got us through. We're going to forget that Stephen Harper got us through the 2008 economic crisis without managing a soft landing. In fact, by cutting stimulus way too quickly, he actually started a second small recession. And Justin Trudeau got us over a far worse crisis with a soft landing. We are going to forget that Jim Flaherty and the Conservatives pretended they didn't see the '08 economic crisis coming, even though Harper was an allegedly trained economist. But they say that the unqualified drama teacher did a worse job. But if we're looking at managing the economy, the unqualified drama teacher did a better job than Stephen Harper. Specifically, if we consider the numbers of where Trudeau had the economy pre pandemic, as opposed to post pandemic, which is the numbers immediately post pandemic, pretty much, which is the numbers the conservatives love to use. The hit in 2008 happened 2 years into Harper's mandate, and he had up until 2015 to clean it up. We sort of got through the worst of COVID in 2023. And in 2024, Trudeau was gone. Harper had many more years after the 2008 crash to clean things up and didn't have the economy in a better place than at which Trudeau had it before COVID started. Right? So we're also going to forget, if we're talking about corruption, that the Conservative Party of Canada had to literally plead guilty in court to election finance crimes in order to save four of their own, including two sitting senators, from going to jail. We're going to forget that Dean Del Mastro, a cabinet minister, went to jail. We're going to forget about Arthur Porter and Bruce Carson. Arthur Porter, whose case in court got thrown out because it was moot because he died in custody in jail in Panama, to where he fled. We're just going to forget about that. We're going to pretend that the previous government that we just had, even though there were ethical lapses in this government, like there are in every government, because it didn't have a single major police investigation, that didn't have any associates go to court, that didn't have any cabinet ministers go to court, that didn't have any senators go to court, that had no criminal charges, no trials, and no convictions, was more corrupt than the government that literally had to plead guilty in court to cheating, who's currently led by a man who claims to be all law and order, but is benefiting from a deferred prosecution agreement himself at the moment, because he too got caught cheating in an election. We're supposed to believe that the party of Justin Trudeau was in any way more corrupt than the one of Stephen Harper's. when we have court cases and jail sentences. Empirical evidence. The 24/7 conservative rage machine is always trying to sully someone. And uh, you know what? It's distasteful and we wish it would stop. And it's full of misinformation. But in this particular case, when Pierre Poilievre made those claims, when he said that the RCMP specifically is despicable because it was covering up intentionally, knowingly, liberal crime. I guess we also shouldn't mention that the RCMP also investigated conservative crime, alleged. There was the kamikaze candidate in Jason Kenney's election, but the RCMP never really got around to finishing that investigation before Jason Kenney got the boot from his own party. So if there was anything wrong, there was nothing that could have happened or nothing that came out of the public that would have led to the leader being deposed. And then we got Doug Ford's investigation. That's been going on for so long, he's had a chance to be reelected twice. I'm sure tons of liberals could be asking, why is the RCMP or OPP or whatever working so hard to cover up conservative crime, given that it took so long, given that these leaders got to remain leaders for so long. But you don't see that from the liberal side. You don't see that from any other political side, suggesting that you have some suggestions that the police could be incompetent or not particularly seized with the issue. But we don't have any direct claims of police forces directly, knowingly, and intentionally attempting to cover up things they know to be crimes in order to protect a certain political side because the police force is somehow politically biased. We don't have that. We have all these police associations showing up to conservative events and endorsing conservative candidates, which should never, ever, 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 ever happen. Ever. But we are supposed to believe that the RCMP is in the bag for the Liberals, or at least was in the bag for Justin Trudeau, specifically, according to Pierre. And we would also have to believe, if Pierre was going to make that claim, that he would have enough evidence of said cover up on the part of the RCMP and enough evidence of actual crimes being committed by the then Prime Minister to make that claim. And surprise, surprise, shocker, Pierre Poilievre put none of that evidence for him to be able to state as a fact that the Prime Minister committed crimes serious enough that warranted him to be thrown in jail, and that the RCMP was in cahoots intentionally to cover it up to the point of being labeled despicable. And you also notice that Pierre made no mention of any of these allegations at any time since SNC started all those years ago until just a few days. So if all of a sudden he's bringing that back up out of the blue, one could reasonably conclude that he recently came across some new information or proof. And you would think that if that was the case, he would have done something like the former prime minister did when it came to India. He would have showed up in the House of Commons and said, I have this proof, and he would have tabled it for us to see. But he did not. He did not. Pierre just woke up one day and decided he himself that this had happened in this particular way, and he was going to say it. out loud with a live mic and a camera rolling. It is incredibly irresponsible. And I guess he thought, just like every time he runs his mouth and says something that is untrue or unflattering or arguably outright defamatory against another person and never suffers any consequence for it whatsoever, that he would get away with this one too. But this one seemed to have crossed the line. And it got a lot of reaction. Got reaction. Andrew Coyne didn't quite take to it. Robin Urbach, not a big fan of it either. I don't know if anything happened to my image here. My screen just timed out. I'm sorry there, kids and cubs, if something did. Robin Urbach didn't like it. Who else? Bruce Anderson was not a big fan of those comments. But there was someone else in particular who was not a big fan of those comments as well. And interesting source because this person is the former director of communications and the former to Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper and former executive director of the Conservative Party of Canada, Mr. Dimitri Sudas. Not a man, I will say, for whom I have affection. Not a man I found did a great job for the nation in his capacities as a former director of communications for Stephen Harper and former, executive director of the Conservative Party of Canada. At all. Not a big fan. But every now and then you get the broken clock syndrome, so to speak, and people that you are politically not aligned with happen to speak a truth that you can agree with. And Dmitry Sudas basically tore a strip off Pierre on the internet, on social media, of course, but also in print with something, an opinion piece that was printed in the Toronto Star. Now, online, so there might be some things that repeat because I will read what he wrote online, but I will also read his contribution in the Toronto Star, and chances are that there might be some things that, how would I put it, echo each other in there. Now, in his post online, hopefully I have it here. There we go. The first three paragraphs are a little bit of him doing the political communications positioning. So I will read them and I will tell you why I don't necessarily agree with them here. The Conservative Party that was shaped by the nation building of Sir John A. Macdonald, the moral conviction of John Diefenbaker, the bold ambition of Brian Mulroney, and the steady discipline of Stephen Harper is far greater than any one man. It is a party rooted in history, principle, and purpose, a party built to serve the country, not the ego of a single leader. No individual, no matter how loud or popular, has the right to rewrite that legacy or distort it into something it was never meant to be. It's an interesting opening three paragraphs, but the problem is that none of it is true because the Conservative Party of Canada was not shaped by anything having to do with the Tory legacy. The Conservative Party of Canada was built by putting the final stake through the heart of the final Tory legacy. It is an entirely new beast that has no right to any claim of the Tory legacy here. So it stops. The Progressive Conservative Party of Canada was shaped by the nation building of Sir John A. Macdonald, the moral conviction of John Diefenbaker, the bold ambition of Brian Mulroney. And that's it. That's where it stops, because the Conservative Party of Canada, first of all, was born through an act of betrayal, right? Just ask what Peter MacKay did to David Orchard in order to make the Conservative Party of Canada happen. Then they lost their first election to Paul Martin, and in their second election, well, they ended up having to plead guilty to election finance crimes. So the Conservative Party of Canada is a party that's born out of an act of betrayal and has corruption and criminality in its DNA at origin. That's where the steady discipline of Stephen Harper came in. And to say that it is far greater than any one man, Stephen Harper, under the Conservative Party of Canada, was a party of one. And Pierre Poilievre is trying to turn it into a cult of personality, a la GOP, circa 2025, under Trump. So none of that is true from Demetrius Soudas. But it's good communication spin, but not a word of that is true. Now we get to the fourth paragraph. This is where he starts dropping some truth. This week, Poilievre accused Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of committing what he described as the worst possible offense for a head of government, violating the criminal code and escaping justice. He claimed that Trudeau's free vacation from the Aga Khan was a clear-cut criminal breach and that the RCMP deliberately chose not to lay charges. Poilievre went further, declaring that Trudeau should have been criminally charged and sent to jail. He went as far as accusing the RCMP leadership of being, quote, despicable and actively shielding the Liberal government from prosecution. In a rule of law democracy, no opposition leader should ever call for a prime minister or any political rival to be jailed. It undermines confidence in our justice system, our federal police, and ultimately the crown. That kind of rhetoric isn't strength, it's recklessness, and it shows a leadership approach that remains rooted in grievance rather than governance. Months after losing the federal election, Poilievre seems not to have learned the lessons of his electoral defeat. For all the fiery slogans and viral clips Canadians saw through the performance, what they needed was a prime minister in waiting. What they got was a man addicted to opposition. Stuck. Months later, there's little evidence he has reflected, adapted, or grown. If anything, he seems more committed than ever to the very approach that cost him credibility with the voters he most needed to win. And then he links to his uh, press opinion piece that actually starts. He basically starts with the same three paragraphs that he started that particular tweet. Pardon me. Sorry, starts with the same first paragraph and then changes. So this part will be repetitive, and then we'll go into the actual piece here. But it was titled Opinion. I'm a former senior aide to Stephen Harper. Pierre Poilievre is dismantling the principled, trustworthy Conservative Party we tried to build. And there's a picture of Stephen Harper holding Pierre Poilievre's hand up in victory. Here, I guess I will show it to you since I have it. And this is also an interesting thing because remember when Stephen Harper were claiming that Mark Carney was trying to steal the legacy of Jim Flaherty, and then Harper made that video that said that both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre had worked for him, and he would most definitely, most assuredly choose Pierre Poilievre today, even though he didn't choose Pierre Poilievre then, because word on the tweet is that when Jim Flaherty passed away and they needed a new finance minister, Stephen Harper went to Mark Carney and asked if Mark Carney would be the finance minister. And Mark Carney said no, because he didn't think that the rotating revolving door between central banker to director to politician that quickly should be a thing. But Stephen Harper didn't ask Pierre Poilievre to be his point person on economics. And after the last election campaign, when we saw Pierre Poilievre release his costing, I think now we know why. Because Pierre has no experience, no qualifications, nothing to offer in that field. But Stephen Harper went in front of a camera and said today he would pick Pierre Poilievre. I wonder if he was asked to film that commercial today, whether or not he would still do that. Stephen Harper, world's worst talent scout, remains true to this day for the most part. All right. This is what Soudas had to say in the editorial piece. The Conservative Party that was shaped by the nation building of Sir John A. Macdonald, the moral conviction of John Diefenbaker, the bold ambition of Brian Mulroney, and the steady discipline of Stephen Harper is far greater than any one man. It is a party rooted in history, principle, and purpose, a party built to serve the country, not the ego of a single leader. No individual, no matter how loud or popular, has the right to rewrite that legacy or distort it into something it was never meant to be. Leader Pierre Poilievre is dismantling the principled, serious, and credible Conservative Party Harper worked so hard to lead and bring to power, one of substance, maturity, and integrity. I'm sorry. Ah, yes. Uh, uh, a party of substance, maturity, and integrity as symbolized by the pitch for the barbaric cultural practices snitch line. Okay. Uh, That old Harpernesia has me in its spell. As a senior aide to Prime Minister Harper, I had the privilege to witness firsthand his leadership style: serious, principled, steady, and deeply committed to the country's long term interests. He was the embodiment of what Canadians should expect from a national leader, governing with discipline, competence, and a profound respect for Canada's institutions. This is the guy that ordered material from our science libraries to be burned and disposed of. Okay, sorry. Sorry, Dimitri. That's funny. Oh my God. He brought credibility to the conservative movement, not through theatrics, but through thoughtful policymaking, fiscal prudence, and strategic vision. He was never swayed by short term headlines or the chaos of the news cycle. Instead, he focused on results, balanced budgets, trade expansion, national security, and pragmatic federalism. Okay, I'm not going to go into why some of that stuff is just not reality doesn't bear that out. Harper spoke less, but when he did, it mattered. He built a unified party that reflected the broad spectrum of conservative values, from fiscal responsibility to national unity, without sacrificing seriousness or integrity. In an era of, again, the party had to plead guilty in an election to cheating, but we're supposed to believe Sudas that he didn't sacrifice integrity. Dude is trying. He's got a point about Pierre. It's just all the stuff that he's saying about the party is bullshit and propaganda here. Ah, my word. In an era of rising populism and political noise, Harper remains a reminder of what real leadership looks like: thoughtful, focused, principled, and unwavering in service to the country. Harper was able to unite fiscal conservatives, social conservatives, progressive conservatives, libertarian conservatives, red Tories, and blue Tories into a serious, policy driven coalition grounded in discipline, pragmatism, and national interest, a legacy now being unraveled by Poilievre's politics of spectacle and division. This week, Poilievre accused Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of committing what he describes as the worst possible offense for a head of government, violating the criminal code and escaping justice. He claimed that Trudeau's free vacation from the Aga Khan was a clear-cut criminal breach and that the RCMP deliberately chose not to lay charges. Poilievre went further, declaring that Trudeau should have been criminally charged and sent to jail. He went as far as accusing the RCMP leadership of being, quote, despicable and actively shielding the Liberal government from prosecution. In a rule of law democracy, no opposition leader should ever call for Prime Minister or any political rival to be jailed. It undermines the confidence in our justice system, our federal police, and ultimately the Crown. That kind of rhetoric isn't strength, it's recklessness, and it shows a leadership approach that remains rooted in grievance rather than governance. Months after losing the federal election, Poilievre seems to have not learned the lessons of his electoral defeat. For all the fiery slogans and viral clips, Canadians saw through the performance. What they needed was a prime minister in waiting. What they got was a man addicted to opposition, stuck in partisan combat, incapable of transformation, and unwilling to rise above the instincts that had always held him back. Voters wanted maturity, reassurance, and vision. He gave them grievance. He ran as the angry question period debater, not the steady hand of a G7 nation. The result? Swing voters waited for growth. That never came. His message was reduced to punchlines. Carbon tax Carney and sneaky Mark Carney may have earned social media points, but it insulted the intelligence of voters craving a real dialogue on housing, inflation, crime, immigration, climate, and affordability. As Carney put forward a detailed, albeit debatable, vision, Poilievre delivered slogans and sneers. Canadians rightly asked, if this is how he acts in opposition, how would he behave in power? Worst of all, Poilievre failed to build a team. A party rich with talent was never showcased: no foreign affairs leads, no visible finance minister, no credible plans for trade, immigration, or defense. It was a one-man show, and when the curtain rose, there was no cast, just more spotlight on him. The most baffling part: Trudeau's record was wide open. Canadians were ready to hear a compelling case, but Polyev couldn't deliver one. He had the opportunity to prosecute a decade of liberal failures and instead leaned on hyperbole, exaggeration, and recycled sound bites. The contrast never sharpened, the plan never appeared, he delivered none of it. His latest comments show once again he has failed to make the leap from critic to leader. Canadians are tired of the anger, the mockery, the volume. They need calm confidence and answers. Yet, despite warnings from advisors, polls, and common sense, he is still giving them attacks, blame, and fury. In the last election, Canadians didn't reject conservative ideas, they rejected Pierre Poilievre. Months later, there's little evidence he has reflected, adapted, or grown. If anything, he seems more committed than ever to the very approach that cost him credibility with the voters he most needed to win. So, um, first of all, ouch. And two, here, um, Dmitry Sudas has basically fired shots with Pierre, upon Pierre, with regard to his leadership review in January. This um, editorial piece from Sudas um, goes further than just these comments. It goes back into the election and the manner in which Pierre campaigned. It criticizes his actual campaign and campaign style. He is making the case that this guy is somehow too limited or unable to pivot or adapt in order to remain as leader, and not only that he does not have the stuff, but currently in the position that he is in with the skills that he does have, apparently showing us his best stuff, he is doing irreparable damage to the party. These are shots coming from within the House, essentially making the case for Pierre to be removed as leader come January, if not before. Columnist Althea Raj picked up on this and wrote a piece also for the Star called "When a Harper conservative goes after Pierre Poilievre, you know there's blood in the water." Cue the theme from Jaws. No, 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 no. Dun, 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 dun. I, here's the thing. What Pierre is doing right now is so terrible for democracy. But I'm just so happy to see him finally getting punched in the teeth a couple of times that even though this is very serious and terrible, I the Freud is, is showing on my face because I'm petty. All right, Althea Raj. The uprising against conservative leader Pierre Poilievre may have officially begun. Just 3 months before Poilievre's leadership review in Calgary, Stephen Harper's former spokesperson is letting it be known that knives should be out. Writing in the Star, Dmitry Sudas accuses Poilievre of, quote, dismantling the principled, serious, and credible Conservative Party Harper worked so hard to lead and bring to power, one of substance, maturity, and integrity. Sudas, who served as the former Prime Minister's communications director, suggests Poilievre is rewriting the legacy of the party, and he reminds the public and conservatives that theirs is a party that is, quote, far greater than any one man, that was built to serve the country, not the ego of a single leader. The conservative establishment, it appears, won't remain silent as Poilievre tries to remake the party into a grievance movement, as Republicans were when Donald Trump turned theirs into an outlet for racist, corrupt, and conspiracy-fueled authoritarianism. Sudas's column is the first public sign that those around Harper, long heralded as the guardian of the party, may be unhappy with the performance of Poilievre, his former parliamentary secretary. During the election campaign, there were multiple reports of frustrations behind the scenes from Harper's camp, despite his public endorsement of the current conservative leader. Oh, so maybe that's why that endorsement video looked more like it was a hostage video. Sorry, proof of life tech thing. In a statement Friday, Harper's team tried to disassociate itself from Sudas's comments, saying his words did not reflect Prime Minister Harper's views. Yes, this part was very, very interesting. Mr. Sudas does not speak on behalf of Mr. Harper, Anna Tomala, the chief of staff of Harper and Associates, told the Star. So we have Sudas fighting with Pierre, and then Sudas, who worked for Harper. We have all the people closer to Harper at the moment turning around and saying, well, Sudas doesn't speak for us. Fight, 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 fight. But privately, many big conservative names, the party's elite, if you wish, are disappointed and discouraged by Poilievre's antics. They muted their complaints when Poilievre was rising in the polls, and it seemed certain he would become prime minister. But now that he's not, the rumblings are getting louder. And again, it just goes to show you about the integrity of the party, right? Well, we thought we were going to win, so we tolerated all this terrible disbehavior. But now that we've lost, and well, it doesn't look like he's got it, well, now we're against it. Now we're speaking up. If it's wrong now, when you're losing, it was wrong then when you were winning. You are not particularly moral people by choosing to get upset about it now and not then. Just saying. God. Inside the Conservative caucus, there are also many unhappy members. The more Prime Minister Mark Carney talks about pipelines and crime and rewrites the Justin Trudeau era legacy, the more these Conservatives are reminded that they may be backing the wrong leader. It's not just those who see themselves as progressive Conservatives, there are also pragmatic Conservatives, fiscal Conservatives, rural Conservatives, Quebec Conservatives, Eastern Conservatives, Western Conservatives, and just not crazy Conservatives. For nearly 10 years, these MPs looked across the aisle and thought Trudeau lacked the maturity to do the job. Now they are asked to defend a leader who muses that his former opponent should be jailed, who calls the RCMP leadership despicable, who wants to, quote, restore merit by ending diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, despite his own track record of appointing conservative candidates who could not win nomination races and displacing an elected MP after losing his own seat last spring. Yes, that was the other thing when Pierre's out there talking about merit. The guy who currently has a seat because he lost the seat that he should have won to somebody else who had more merit because, as determined by the people of the riding that Pierre served for 2 decades, or allegedly served for two decades, and then somebody that had already been given a seat by members of Battle River Crowfoot abandoning their seat so that Pierre can get a do-over in a race that was the second safest seat in all of the country because Pierre believes in merit. I mean, Pierre Poilievre has got to be the absolute worst guy, other than Andrew Scheer, that they could put up to speak about merit. Ah, much as the 2015 election campaign left many New Democrats dispirited after Trudeau gave voice to their issues and ideals better than the NDP leader Thomas Mulcair, any Conservatives aren't upset that they lost. Sorry. Let's try that again because I misread that. Much as the 2015 election campaign left many New Democrats dispirited after Trudeau gave voice to their issues and ideals better than NDP leader Thomas Mulcair, many Conservatives aren't upset that they lost. They are upset about how they lost. They feel they didn't run on their principles. They felt they are represented by a leader that does not represent their values. What are they willing to do about it? Some caucus members were approached by Liberal emissaries this spring about crossing the floor, but ultimately felt they couldn't make that switch. Intellectually, emotionally, they were not Liberals. Some represent ridings that would be hard to win as a grit. But 6 months later, those calculations may have changed, especially for Quebec MPs and those in Eastern Canada. Poilievre is going down a darker path. Can they win the riding in spite of him as leader? Now, this here is really interesting because, um, for example, right, a political term officially is 5 years. Most people will sit for 4, right? We're in a minority situation. We could go back to an election anytime. Technically, there is a scenario. It's probably unlikely, but that the Liberals could seek to engineer their own defeat on the budget. We go into another election, and then all of a sudden, let's say the Liberals get their actual majority. Let's say the Conservatives lose a few seats, the Bloc gain a few, the NDP gain a few. You have some people that may have just recently gotten a job whose job may now be at risk. Do they want to go into another election now, or maybe would 1 or 2 or 3, let's say 3, want to cross the floor to ensure that we have a government that lasts 4 years and that they have a job for 4 years and get 2/3 of the way to their pension? Hmm, that might be an interesting proposition at this point for certain people. Much more interesting and appealing now than it was 6 months ago, considering how their leader is taken. Might be different conversations if the Liberals approach the Conservatives today. again, particularly the ones in Quebec and in Atlantic Canada, even some in Ontario, saying, "You sure you want to go the full road with this guy? This, or would you like to have some job security for 4 years?" Conservatives, come over to the dark side. We have cookies and milk. Defection to the Liberals, however, is not the only option. Much like Chuck Straw once led a group of Canadian Alliance MPs who were disenchanted with Stockwell Day's leadership to sit in the House of Commons as their own parliamentary grouping, these Conservatives could form their own caucus that would signal disappointment with Poilievre and could spur more of an effort to defeat him in Calgary next January. Oh, please. Please, please, please. A new leader would no doubt welcome those dissenters back into the Conservative fold. But most Conservative MPs feel Poilievre's leadership review, his confirmation, is all but sealed and delivered. Some delegates have yet to be selected, but the location choice of Calgary, the simultaneous Ontario Progressive Conservative Convention, and the makeup of the current membership seems like insurmountable obstacles to those who oppose his leadership. Oh, how convenient. They scheduled the leadership review at the same time as an Ontario Progressive Conservative Convention so that Ontario Progressive Conservatives who are really tired of Pierre would decide to go to their own convention rather than make the trip to Calgary to vote against him, especially voting in Calgary in January. Yeah, that sounds appealing. Pardon me, I have to sneeze. Pardon me. Oh, I had 4 of them in a row there. Normally I stop at 3. It's either 1 or 3. 4 is a little unusual for me. All right. Let's see what else this article says here. And unlike the revolt that led to Aaron O'Toole's removal as Conservative Party leader after the disappointing 2021 election campaign, Poilievre has no leadership rival actively organizing against him the way he organized against O'Toole. It's mainly why the movement to push Poilievre out the door has so far had few legs. No one wants to stick their necks out for fear of having Poilievre refuse to sign their nomination papers, especially ending their political careers. And everyone in and out of the Conservative caucus knows Poilievre won't go without a fight. Would he even contest the leadership of the party if he lost the leadership review? If if Conservative MPs were waiting for a white knight before showing some resolve, that person hasn't materialized. Leadership options leadership options may not present themselves until Poilievre is out the door, and with him the MAGA rhetoric that he is espousing. What they and grassroots conservatives have been given by Sudas now is a push for moral clarity. They may not have the numbers yet to defeat Poilievre in January, but there's now a suggestion that many more feel like they do, and that if they don't act, the legacy of the party will be reshaped in a manner they find unrecognizable. So there you go. Althea Raj's position on that. Now, um, when Pierre did this, he got the initial blowback. And there was a period of time where he could have issued an apology or a clarification, um, and didn't. In fact, the story went on for about 4 days before uh, Pierre decided to issue some type of clarification. So the story got bad enough that Pierre would have to do that. Um, so I will. There's a Globe and Mail article about that that I will read. Um, let's no, because the other thing came out first. So let's do this. There was one more editorial about Pierre. This also in the Globe and Mail. That might have had an influence on the decision to come out and offer this correction. But this was Robin Urbach, who I mentioned, had tweeted at something, at some point saying to Pierre, "You could always decide not to tweet. Saying nothing is an option." Like that's just like shut the fuck up. But she wrote, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's recent behavior doesn't quite meet the threshold of an all-out spiral. He hasn't shaved his head like Britney or started running through the street naked like that guy who created the Coney 2012 campaign. But look, when you're supposed to be the solemn voice for the official opposition and yet you're posting on X about how the Nazis were socialists, but it's right there in their name, and trying to rewrite the history of the Freedom Convoy, he referred to the 3-week occupation which effectively shut down Ottawa's downtown core in 2022 as a, quote, peaceful protest, and talking about how former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau should have been arrested for actions he took while in office, you start to look a little unhinged. In a recent interview with a YouTube channel called Northern Perspective, Mr. Poilievre said Mr. Trudeau should have been criminally charged for vacationing on the private island of the Aga Khan in 2016, and that he, quote, probably broke the law during the SNC-Lavalin scandal too. Quote, many of the scandals of the Trudeau era should have involved jail time, he said during the interview. But that didn't happen because the RCMP covered it all up, according to Mr. Poilievre. What actually happened during the SNC-Lavalin scandal is that the Liberals, citing cabinet confidence, failed to produce all relevant documents, thus limiting the RCMP's ability to conduct a thorough investigation. Quote, the leadership of the RCMP is frankly just despicable, Mr. Poilievre said in the interview. Um, is the Conservative leader okay? Did he recently separate from Kevin Federline? Or maybe he lost an election that was supposed to make him prime minister after spending his entire adult life working towards that election. And maybe he lost his seat to boot, which turned a mere crushing defeat into a humiliating one. And it's gotten worse for Mr. Poilievre from there. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who tricked the electorate, well, you tricked. You can see that Robin is a pro-conservative, typically editorialist with this particular line. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who tricked the electorate into thinking he would go elbows up against U.S. President Donald Trump, is now shamelessly performing curtsies in the Oval Office. Mr. Poilievre never could have gotten away with that. And the Liberals are busy governing off the Conservatives' campaign platform, bail reform measures, tighter border security, and asylum claimant rules, reduction targets for the public service, and so on. Imagine if Mr. Poilievre had campaigned on cutting the public service by 15%, as Mr. Carney now says he intends to do. He'd be pilloried. But the public's opinion of Mr. Carney remains high, according to recent Abacus polling data. That might have to do with the fact that people probably believe that Mr. Carney, given his boardroom experience, if he were to make those cuts and changes, would at least do them in a manner that shows competence and discipline and rigor. Whereas Pierre, how many makeovers has the guy had? Clearly, his priority isn't on process and method. And to top it all off, the guy who, in Mr. Poilievre's view, destroyed life in Canada and also rudely resigned instead of running in an election, making way for Mr. Carney, is off on a yacht somewhere making out with a pop star, while Mr. Poilievre is back where he's been for the past 20 years, trying to land good zingers in Parliament so he can put them on his YouTube channel. It's enough to make anyone go kind of loopy. Poilievre loyalists might try to argue that there's a method to the Conservative leader's apparent madness. Editorial edition from your own Eager Beaver, but it's still freaking madness. If there's a method to your madness, that's nice, but it's still madness. You might want to work on that part. Mr. Poilievre is slated to face a leadership review in January, and he knows that this sort of stuff is galvanizing to his base. But he also knows, surely by now, that it's positively radioactive to most everyone else, and would be mostly self-defeating since his hold on the leadership remains relatively strong. Mr. Poilievre's task after the election was to demonstrate that he's more than just Justin Trudeau's nemesis, that he can be a prime minister in waiting, a serious guy who could, if given the opportunity, steer the country in a more unified, more prosperous direction. Instead, he's rehashing scandals from nearly a decade ago and grumbling that the police didn't arrest his political opponent. I'm sorry Justin didn't run in the election, Pierre, but he's gone now and he's not coming back. Maybe he's off on another private island, I don't know, but the point is everyone else has moved on and you should too. The shrewd version of Mr. Poilievre would know better than to offer up such a direct line of comparison between himself and the US president by talking about jailing his political opponents. Instead, Mr. Poilievre used to be a very skilled politician who was surgical about the image of himself he put out to the public. That is until Mr. Trudeau resigned in January and threw him off his bearings. In any case, Mr. Poilievre needs to find his way back to that guy soon before this one ends up with a really bad haircut. Ooh, ouch. Ouch. Okay. Again, the calls are coming from inside the house. So, Pierre issued a clarification yesterday. Also, story in the Globe Mail about this one, and it is brought to us courtesy of. Just going to take a look here at who wrote this byline. I would assume it would be Bob Fife, but I could be with Stephanie Levitz. Also, that was the other option. Poilievre backpedals on RCMP comments after days of pushback. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre tried Monday to soften tripped over my tongue on that one. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre tried Monday to soften controversial remarks he made about the RCMP after days of accusations he'd gone too far. In a statement emailed to reporters early Monday afternoon, he professed his support to rank-and-file police officers and said he stood by them, but not their former boss. Quote, "My comments were directed to the former RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki, who has a lengthy track record of publicly documented scandals, deception, and political interference to the benefit of the Liberal government," Mr. Poilievre said. "We called for her resignation. We stand by that call to this day." The statement was an unusual instance of Mr. Poilievre working to clarify controversial comments and came after pushback even from within his own party. Mr. Poilievre's original remarks about the RCMP were made in a sit-down interview with YouTube channel Northern Perspective last week. And since that is mentioned at this particular time, and since I do happen to have Kits and Cubs, why not take a chance at this moment to show it to you, because I could not do that on Friday. So here, Kits and Cubs, 1 minute and 43 seconds. Poilievre basically lighting his political career on fire and kicking himself in the dick.
It's me. And maybe this is a good dovetail. Sorry, that really hit me. When we think and we reflect on all of the corruption of the Liberal government over the last 10 years, and we've looked into it, they're accountable for over a third of all scandals in Canadian history since 1867.
Right.
How would you react if you were in government and you found that one of your team was involved in one of these types of scandals?
Well, they'd be fired. I mean, obviously you have to find out if it was an innocent screw-up, a one-time minor screw-up that was due to a mistake, or whether it was a real, genuine corruption, self-serving corruption. But many of the scandals of the Trudeau era should have been involved jail time. I mean, Trudeau broke the criminal code when he took a free vacation from someone with whom he had government business. It's just like, it's right there in the criminal code. If the RCMP had been doing its job and not covering up for him, then he would have been criminally charged. And again, he probably violated the criminal code in the SNC-Lavalin scandal. These would normally have led to criminal charges, but of course the RCMP covered it all up, and the leadership of the RCMP is frankly just despicable when it comes to enforcing laws against the Liberal government. But yeah, I would fire them, and in cases like that, I would report.
So anyway, it goes on. This was clearly a clip that didn't contain the full answer beginning to end about what it is that he would do. But we already know that's a lie, because Pierre Poilievre had some MPs that sat down, had a dinner with Christine Anderson, and they are still part of the party today. And just as was the case with that one, when Pierre finally had enough pressure that he had to release something that said that he did not stand by that stuff, it was again a release that was made just to journalists, but that you could find nowhere on the party website and nowhere on his socials. And as we know, Pierre is definitely someone that knows how to get a message out, given all of his videos and all of his campaigns. So this doesn't seem like a particularly sincere clarification or retraction, because if it was, wouldn't he want everybody who votes for him, or who would vote for him or consider voting for him, to know about that? No, he wouldn't, because he said that to appeal to them. So he's got this little statement released just to journalists. And in that statement, it says, no, I don't mean the current commissioner of the RCMP, who was the deputy commissioner at the time that Brenda Lucky was the commissioner. I meant the other one, the woman. Yeah, that makes her look better. That makes you. I want to clarify that I'm not talking about the entire RCMP. I'm talking just about that woman. Well, we just heard the clip. He didn't mention Brenda Lucky once in that clip. He's talking about the RCMP. He didn't make any distinction between then and now. And if you listen to the question, right, it's like liberals are responsible for 1/3 of all the corruption or the crimes, or what he says. Liberals have also governed for about 90 years since Confederation. Given that every political party and every government has some scandals along the way, if you happen to be a party that governs more often than the other, then yeah, statistically, you are going to have more of the scandals over time. But there are scandals and there are violations of ethics codes and stuff like that. And remember, this new ethics legislation was legislation that Harper brought in. So when conservatives claim all the time that nobody's been charged under the ethics code more than Justin Trudeau, it's because there was only Justin Trudeau and Stephen Harper. And Stephen Harper had hired Mary Dawson, the ethics commissioner, who couldn't seem to find an ethics violation at all committed by the conservatives during her 10 years as ethics commissioner, as evidenced by the fact that the conservatives have to actually plead guilty in court to in and out. And well, that never came up with Mary Dawson. Just saying. So yeah, some loaded questions there, and you can see Pierre's answer. He wasn't caring about nuance here. In answer to a question about scandals under the Liberal government, Mr. Poilievre said many of them should have involved jail time. Quote, if the RCMP had been doing its job and not covering up for him, then he would have been criminally charged, Mr. Poilievre said of former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. How Mr. Poilievre would know that, to be able to say that, then becomes a question. Well, if you knew for sure that if the RCMP had been doing his job and not covering, well, first of all, if you knew for sure that the RCMP was not doing his job, what evidence do you have of that? If you knew for sure that the RCMP was not only not doing his job, but actively covering up for the Prime Minister, what evidence do you have of that? And if you say that if it wasn't for that, the Prime Minister would have been criminally charged, what evidence do you have to show that the Prime Minister not only would have been charged, but since you're talking about it should have involved jail time, you're clearly claiming that you have evidence or are aware of evidence that is not only so compelling that it would lead to charges, but that would lead to a conviction. For all the things that Pierre says to be true, those things would also have to be true for Pierre to say them truthfully. And if Pierre had such compelling evidence about those three things, the RCMP not doing its job, the RCMP actively covering up, and Mr. Trudeau having committed crimes so egregious that they would warrant jail time, so obviously egregious that they would have resulted in charges and obviously jail time. Why hasn't he shared any of that evidence with authorities or with us? And then the questions of when he would have acquired that evidence, because SNC is a couple of years in the background, so is the Aga Khan Island. If he had the evidence for a long time, why did he sit on it, and why is he only really seeing it now? Or if he just acquired it, how did he come to acquire it? Because we know that with regard to Patrick Brown, for example, when he had that staffer somehow testify in some or to make some type of allegation, I believe he had offered to cover her legal fees. Where's the whistleblower? There's none of that. He then said, quote, the leadership of the RCMP is frankly just despicable when it comes to enforcing laws against the Liberal government. His Monday statement made no reference to his comments about Mr. Trudeau. Miss Lucky served as RCMP commissioner between 2018 and 2023. The Globe and Mail could not immediately reach her for comment. The two incidents Mr. Polyev cited in the interview were the 2019 SNC Lavallee affair and Mr. Trudeau's 2016 trip to Aga Khan's private island. Mr. Trudeau was found in breach of ethics laws for that trip, but the RCMP did not pursue criminal charges, nor did they in the SNC Lavallee scandal. And also, you have to wonder here how well things must be going for Pierre in his fight against Carney. It just seems to me when I'm watching him go back into the vault for break out the greatest hits of 2019 and 2016 that it seems to be a sign of capitulation that the Conservatives, everything that they've been trying about Carney, his former business dealings with Brookfield, that he's that he's corrupt and all this kind of stuff, and that he destroyed the UK when he clearly didn't, and all that kind of that none of this is landing whatsoever, and that they've used the best that they've got because, as we've stated on this show, right, Mark Carney is probably the most vetted prime minister we've ever had. He was vetted as all get out when he became the governor of Bank of Canada. He was vetted as all get out when he became governor of the Bank of England. I believe he also had to get UK citizenship. So he was vetted there in order to get that position. And then in his campaign to become prime minister, he, unlike Pierre, did sit for his secured compartmentalized information clearance level and obtained it. So if there was anything in Mark Carney's past over a very long sustained period of time from the time he was considered to be the governor of Bank of Canada and they start doing the security checks into him at that point, was up until now, something would have come out already. And it's not like the Conservatives aren't fantastic at opposition research. They live to sling mud. So they're very good at finding it. So that would have to mean that after all this time, with all the resources and all the money the Conservative Party of Canada has, and it has more money than God in politics, they're not able to find anything whatsoever on Mark Carney and have to go back to the Trudeau vault to find stuff to be able to scream liberal corruption. Mr. Poilievre's statement was sent out Monday as he tried to press the Liberals during question period, but they parried back with questions of their own comments. Quote, the leader of the opposition put into question the independence of our judiciary, the independence of our prosecutors, of the police, in fact, the very police that put their lives on the line to protect him, House Leader Stephen McKinnon said. The leader has the next 30 seconds to make amends, to apologize, to tell the people of this chamber and this House that he is sorry for what he said. We don't do that in Canada. Mr. Poilievre did not apologize. He accused the Liberals of, quote, trying to distract from their inflation and rising cost of living by talking about their corruption. Or was it Mr. Poilievre who was trying to distract from the fact that he's got no policy, he's got no plans, he's got no method, he's got no rigor, and he has no ability to pivot or change or to say anything that would literally appeal to a plurality of Canadians. So he would rather talk about the RCMP and Trudeau having been corrupt, rather than his lack of plans, or capacity, or ability, or originality, or charisma, or charm, or common sense, logic, or all the other things he lacks. Monday marked the return of the House of Commons after a Thanksgiving break at the start of what will be a frenetic few weeks. The Liberals are set to deliver their first budget under Prime Minister Mark Carney on November 4th. Mr. Poilievre's office had previously sought to explain the leader's remarks last week in language similar to that used by him in Monday's statement. His office also noted a past instance of Miss Lucky appearing to have acted to protect the government in the aftermath of the 2020 mass shooting in Nova Scotia. The Conservatives had previously called for her resignation in connection with that issue. So when Pierre Poilievre is saying, right, that we've asked for her resignation, they asked for her resignation based on what happened in Port-au-Pic, Nova Scotia, not based on the investigation or lack thereof of what happened with the Aga Khan or SNC. But he's conflating them in this statement. But the decision was taken to issue a statement in Mr. Poilievre's name after earlier efforts to tamp down the criticism failed, and his remarks were given renewed attention by Dimitri Souness, who once served as a spokesperson for former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Mr. Sudas wrote an op-ed published Friday by the Toronto Star in which he said Mr. Poilievre was dismantling the principled, serious, and credible Conservative Party Harper worked so hard to lead and bring to power. His juxtaposition of Mr. Poilievre's approach with Mr. Harper's in turn prompted a statement from the former Prime Minister's current Chief of Staff. Quote, "This article does not reflect former Prime Minister Harper's views. Mr. Sudas does not speak on behalf of Mr. Harper," Anna Tomala wrote on social media. Mr. Poilievre more often doubles down when attacked for controversial remarks. While running for the leadership of the party in 2022, he said he'd fire Tiff Macklem, the government of the Bank of Canada. Another Trumpian statement, by the way, because Trump is so determined to get Jerome Powell out. And another person, Lisa, I can't remember her last name, that he made seemingly false allegations about her lying on mortgage applications, which is really rich because, well, 34 felony convictions. Anyway, while running for the leadership of the party in 2022, he said he'd fire Tiff Macklem, the governor of the Bank of Canada, accusing the bank of doing the bidding of the Liberal government. When criticized for wanting to politically interfere with the independent central bank, he stood by his comments and said the bank should be held accountable for contributing to the post-pandemic inflation. So, again, a feature of Pierre Poilievre and not a bug, unfortunately. So, where does that bring us? There started to be some commentary. My God, we're already an hour and a half in it. There was so much around this. Jeez. I might have to do a second show today. Elizabeth May came out yesterday to make some comments about this. And as you know, personally a big fan of Elizabeth May when it comes to this type of thing, because she is the type of person I look to because I believe in her honesty, and I know that she has method and rigor when she's about talking about such things. She does her work. She is respected even among her peers. For that type of work. And of course, it also helps in this particular case that Elizabeth May does happen to be a lawyer. Mr. Poilievre is not. So let's listen to what Miss May has to say, because she has some very interesting and important elements of law to mention, and also a little bit of history that some of us may have forgotten in the meantime. So, ladies and gentlemen, kids and cubs, here we go. Elizabeth May.
Elizabeth May, Green Party of Canada. I don't know about the rest of you, but I felt compelled to speak out at Pierre Poilievre's latest, outburst that seems to have come from the pages of Project 2025. It certainly didn't come from the criminal code, with the notion that former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau should be in jail if not for the quote-unquote despicable leadership of the RCMP. First of all, I did go to law school. Pierre Poilievre didn't. People think there are too many lawyers in politics. This episode makes it really clear, as far as I'm concerned, not enough lawyers in politics. You have to know something about the law before you spout off that a former prime minister should be in jail. Why? Was there a criminal code offense that the RCMP covered up? No. The report of the late Mary Dawson, the Ethics Commissioner for Canada, she reported in 2017 that she believed Justin Trudeau had broken the ethics code by accepting the Christmas vacation the year before on the Aga Khan's private island. I'll be honest with you, I never bought it at the time. I didn't want to be going in front of the microphones to defend Justin Trudeau's vacation, but it was entirely subjective. And I wondered how it was that the Ethics Commissioner decided that the Aga Khan was not a family friend. Now, the details are clear. Pierre Trudeau and the Aga Khan were friends. Justin Trudeau knew the Aga Khan since his earliest childhood. If not for Mary Dawson's subjective finding that the Aga Khan did not meet the definition of family friend, there was no offense here. Now,
all right, let's make that very clear. Elizabeth May, on a point of law here, stating that were it not for the fact that Harper's personally appointed ethics commissioner, Mary Dawson, who had trouble finding ethics violations for 10 full years, suddenly, on her last case, on the way out the door, determined that the Aga Khan was not a personal friend of Justin Trudeau's, there would be no case here at all. None. Pierre is claiming that there is evidence enough that it was covered up by the RCMP, and evidence so bad that it would have warranted Justin Trudeau going to jail. And as Elizabeth May points out, she's a lawyer, he's not. And as I would like to point out, Pierre has been employed as a legislator for 20 years and appears to know nothing about the law. That should scare the shit out of anyone. How do you work as a legislator for 20 years and not pick up a thing or two about the law somewhere along the way? Back to Miss May.
There's misuse of potentially of using the planes, but even if every element of the ethics code was proven, which I don't believe it was, even if every element had been proven at that time, this was not a criminal code offense. So where is Pierre Poilievre's notion that the former prime minister should be jailed? It's deeply worrying because this is the kind of thing going on right now in Trump's United States.
And here, I would like to point out once again that Miss May, who does know the law, is very clearly explaining here. We have a criminal code, we have a civil code, and there are ethics codes and stuff like that. What Pierre is saying was so serious that it involved a cover-up of the RCMP and should have sent Trudeau to jail isn't even a violation of the criminal code. And the man, again, I point out, has been a legislator for 20 years. Statistically, you can't even accidentally make such a claim and be wrong when you've been working in that field. And again, let me point out that Pierre Poilievre has access to the best researchers in the country, the entire Library of Parliament, and all of the political staffers that he's got working that can go and find out this information that's all publicly available and still manage to get the law wrong. You have to work really hard to be that wrong. It doesn't just happen. All right, back to Miss May.
Political enemies can become then persecuted through law enforcement, and you end up having former colleagues, friends, associates of Donald Trump. Once they're no longer friends, they should be in jail. I don't like that kind of language in Canadian politics. I don't like it coming from anyone. But I do think for the Canadian public, it needs to be clear when somebody is evading the law and when they're not. So again, in the instance of the SNC-Lavalin affair and the improper pressure brought on our former and quite noble former Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the Honourable Jody Wilson-Raybould, I still think that the RCMP should have pursued its investigation into what really took place there. But we actually don't know whether Justin Trudeau applied the pressure or not. We only know that the former clerk of the Privy Council office, Michael Warnick, did. So these things, again, is there a criminal code offense here? Even if all the elements were proven, should someone be in jail? And what does it advance Canadian society to refer to the RCMP leadership as, quote-unquote, despicable? So I think Pierre Poilievre should reconsider his language, withdraw those words, and apologize.
All right, so pointing out here that on the second claim from Pierre Poilievre with regard to SNC, given where the investigation was and the lack of being able to access cabinet confidence documents, there actually is no evidence anywhere in the public domain that would indicate that there was a pressure campaign by the Prime Minister. We have some pressure, again, by Michael Warnick, because we heard the phone call, but then again, that phone call was surreptitiously taped. which is a less than a noble action. I hate to contradict Mademoiselle May here with regard to the nobility of Jody Wilson-Raybould. But speaking of Jody Wilson-Raybould, even she claimed, as much as she was trying to make a mess and trouble for the Prime Minister, that there was nothing, in her estimation, illegal that had happened. Unethical, yes, but not illegal. And we have to remind people that not everything that is unethical is illegal, and not everything that's legal is ethical. Just saying. It's a two-way street. So, you have, again, Elizabeth May, who knows her stuff, who does her research, claiming that even if all the lack of ethics elements had been proven, and they hadn't, would there still be material for a criminal code violation for a charge, and especially a conviction? No. The answer is quite simply no, based on all of the evidence that is available out in the public domain. There's nothing that remotely comes close to the allegations Pierre Poilievre is making here. So, we get to the question and answer period of what it is that she is saying here. And most of the questions, interestingly, were in French. It seems that Francophone journalists were much more interested in what Elizabeth May had to say about this. But in her answers, Elizabeth May, who has a memory like a trap, by the way, reminds us of the most recent experience in which there is documentation to show that the RCMP did act in favor of a political party. And you will never guess, kits and cubs, which political party happened to gain the.
My commitment is just that we discuss something with a factual basis. And if the RCMP really, at the leadership level, had some bias, we ought to know about it. The only time we know, by the way, that the RCMP had a political bias was when the former commissioner, Zaccardelli, interfered in the 2005 election and tipped the election towards Harper's Conservatives. That was the last time we actually have an established paper trail of RCMP interfering in Canadian politics. We don't have anything in the case regarding Justin Trudeau.
All right. So for those who may not remember, and even I had forgotten this, kits and cubs, back in 2005, right, RCMP Commissioner Zaccardelli was looking into claims that the Liberals, and particularly Ralph Goodale, if I'm not mistaken, had leaked some information with regard to income trusts and regulations about income trusts, whether that I think the taxation of them was going to change. And information about that suggesting that there might be something up came out in the press maybe about a week or so. We're close enough to the election date, and that was the turning point in that election that led to Stephen Harper becoming Prime Minister for the first time, the very same election in which the Conservatives cheated financially and eventually had to plead guilty to what was called the In and Out scandal, but not even though they won the election in 2005, not pleading guilty to that until sometime around 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Because they fought it tooth and nail, claiming up, down, and all around that they had never, ever, ever done anything wrong whatsoever. No, 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 no. But in 2011, ended up pleading guilty to lesser charges under the Canada Elections Act, admitted to exceeding national campaign spending limits and failing to report all expenses, and paid a combined fine of over $50,000, which seems relatively low considering that the party can raise tens of millions in a quarter. So again, $50,000 is just a permission slip. Pardon me, I have to sneeze again. So yes, just a permission slip. In exchange for the guilty pleas, the party and its fund, the Crown, dropped charges against 4 senior individuals, including 2 senators. So, in order to win, and that's why I always say that 2000, that first election win from Stephen Harper has to have an asterisk on it. They needed an assist from the commissioner of the RCMP, putting out a story that was in time proven to not be true about Ralph Goodale leaking specific information regarding to the tax treatment of income trusts and the Conservatives overspending in the election, breaking finance laws through the in and out scandal, and then, of course, denying it for several years after, and then eventually pleading guilty to it because the story was coming alive as they were about to go into another federal election, and they wanted to take it out of the circulation, so they pleaded guilty in order to make it go away, and then that was the election which they finally got their majority. So, um, had Zaccardelli not done that, we may have never had a Prime Minister Stephen Harper. And we might never have had a Pierre Poilievre, who was a minister at some point, and we might not have a party leader, Pierre Poilievre, today. So, yes, the one most recent time that there was interference by the RCMP, it was against Liberals in favor of the Conservatives. But we have Pierre here trying to make us believe that there is typical and usual interference from the RCMP, not irregular or extraordinary one-time things that shock us, and that it is in favor of the Liberals when the most recent example documented was the complete other way around. Again, they literally are the say anything party here. Now, later on in the press event, Miss May is asked specifically whether or not she believes that Pierre should remain as party leader, whereas I would have had no difficulty saying, "Oh no, hell no, he got to go." That's just a bridge too far. Miss May is a lot more process oriented and diplomatic than that, and kind of sidesteps in a way, uh, but uh, basically puts the ball in their court, but does speak of her own personal experience as a leader in this one answer here. So let's present that to you.
Again, I think it's up to the members of the Conservative Party. I just went through a leadership review. I leave it to the members of the Green Party to decide whether I have their confidence. Obviously, I'm looking forward to a leadership race and having a new leader of the Green Party soon. But I'm able to stand here and say, of the Greens who voted, 80% plus want me to do what I said I was going to do, continue as leader till the new leader is elected. We'll see right now whether Pierre Poilievre is appealing to a base that wants to vote to keep him as leader, or whether those other voices within his party who say our base is too small. If we're going to be able to form government, we have to not say things that cause massive revulsion through Canadian society.
So again, not expressing an opinion herself as to whether or not the party should go, but stating that, as someone who recently went through a leadership review herself, this is something we hadn't talked about on the show, but the Green Party leader has announced that she would be stepping down, would not be seeking re-election, I believe, in the next election, would be stepping down as the leader. And then there was some discussion within the party whether or not they should just replace her right now. She made the case that why would you replace me, who's willing to serve as a leader and is trusted right now, with an interim leader, only to then get another leader? I'm willing to do the work, so just leave me here. I'll stay until you actually pick a new leader. And then I'll step aside. And ultimately, that's what the party decided. But moving on to the Pierre side, not saying that they should get rid of him, but basically making the case that if you have a party leader that is saying things that are essentially that's acting as a repellent to bringing more people into your party, and you need more people into your party in order to win, um, well, maybe you should think about whether or not that's the leader who serves you. So, you know, not saying he should go, but she's saying he should go. Or at least you really need to think very hard about your choices. Make good choices. All right. And then the last little bit there asked specifically, and she's already said yes to this already in her statement, but whether or not her view that Pierre should apologize for this.
You think he should apologize?
I think he absolutely should apologize, not only for saying that Justin Trudeau should be in jail, but for calling the RCMP leadership despicable. I think the RCMP needs massive reforms, by the way. I just asked about an hour ago of the Minister for Public Security, the Honourable Gary Andesangria. Has he read the mass casualty report, for example? Before we go hire 1,000 new RCMP officers, are we at all interested in the findings of the most extensive investigation into RCMP negligence? The killing of 22 people in Portapique, Nova Scotia in 2020 was directly related to the incompetence and negligence of the RCMP institutionally. That report said that a 26-week course is not sufficient, and RCMP officers should undergo a 3-year course. It's very clear that this government is not accepting those recommendations. They're going to hire 1,000 new RCMP officers who've received a 26-week course. I think we should learn from horrors like the killings, the largest mass killing in Canadian history, when 22 people were killed in Nova Scotia, where the killer was someone who'd been reported to the RCMP for over 10 years. And they turned a blind eye. The report, if you read, it's this incredible report. Basically, the RCMP notes on those occasions were, why would a wealthy white guy beat up on a poor guy and steal his money? He's a wealthy white guy, so obviously we don't believe the complainant. I mean, it's that clear, the inherent racism in the system, that could not believe that this wealthy denturist was, on complaints from numerous people, a dangerous psychopath. They just chose not to believe it. They didn't investigate it. That's one of the reasons the Mass Casualty Commission report said they need better training. 26 weeks versus what the Mass Casualty report says 3 years. But that's not the same as what Pierre Poilievre said. He said the leadership was corrupt. The leadership was influenced by partisan interests and politics. It's very different questions. And I really think Pierre Poilievre should apologize. It also would probably help save his own skin.
En français, juste pour clarifier, vous pensez que M. Poilievre doit s'excuser?
There you go. She even believes that it might help Poilievre save his own skin. How about that? So there you go. Miss May very clearly making the case, giving us some fact checks about the law and how Pierre is wrong, giving us some fact checks about the specific cases that Pierre was specifically talking about, and also referring the incidents in Portapique there in her last answer, stating that, she does agree that the RCMP does have to undergo some type of reform. But yeah, that is not nowhere near the same thing. We also have a Kit Tammy G here who in a comment, I believe it was, made a point that Kit Crystal actually saying yes. When the comment from the journalist from Northern Perspective was making the point that a third of those offenses via violations had been made while Liberals were in power, pointing out, and I'm glad you did that because I actually did miss that. Two parties have formed federal government. If the Liberals have been responsible for 1/3, then who was responsible for the other 2/3? And if I understand how fractions work, 2/3 is more than 1/3. Right? Okay, Yeah. Good catch there, Kit Crystal. Very, very, very good catch. And then we have Kit Jolene here mentioning that Thomas Mulcair also on a panel saying the same thing about Pierre. I saw it as well, and hopefully, even though I am definitely going over time, I'm looking at the time there. I will present it in the course of this episode here. And again, with Thomas Mulcair, yes, absolutely. I agree with you on the chat, Kits and Cubs, making the point that Mr. Mulcair typically not the most reliable commentator with regard to this kind of stuff. Uh, Usually has some pretty bad takes. But on this one, not exactly wrong. Not exactly wrong. Again, a little bit of a broken clock syndrome here on that one. But yes, let's take a look at that since I have it here lined up for you. This was on CTV's Power and Politics. And I right off the bat, his first intervention. So we'll do the introduction by Vasha Kapelas and go into the question.
Let's bring in our front bench to unpack some of this. With me tonight, former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant. He's now the CEO of Space Canada. Former Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt is here. She's the Vice Chair and Managing Director of Global Investment Banking at CIBC. CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair is with us, as is the Toronto Star's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Rob Benzie. Hi, everybody. Very nice to see you. These comments and the reaction to them had been discussed already, Tom, and then I was kind of a little bit surprised today to see the statement of clarification. I've covered Mr. Poilievre's leadership for the last 3 years. I can't remember the last time there was a statement of clarification issued a few days after something like this had surfaced. What does that tell you about what might be happening behind the scenes?
Now, before we go into Mr. Mulcair's answer, I would like to point out here, because he's going to say some things, that Mr. Mulcair personally himself once was involved in a defamation case. The charges were made against him. And even though Mr. Mulcair is a lawyer and understands the law, he was, fought that case and fought it to the bitter end. And at no point during that case did he notice that he was probably not going to win it, and he didn't pull the ripcord and was found guilty in court of defamation. So a court has deemed that Mr. Mulcair is the type of person who will say anything about anybody, which is one of the reasons I don't have much respect for him. But given Mr. Mulcair's deep and extensive personal experience with such matters about making claims about people that have been so bad that legally in court they have generated consequences, he might have an idea what he's talking about here. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, back to Mr. Mulcair.
Well, the retroactive reflections and the attempt to change what he actually said is an indication that he's in trouble with some parts of the Conservative base, and he had no choice but to start scrambling. I had to go back to the actual quote to make sure that I hadn't missed something, because now he says, of course, that he was talking about an individual that he names, Brenda Lucki. Here's the quote. The leadership of the RCMP is frankly just despicable when it comes to enforcing laws against the Liberal government. In the quotes that we just saw, both in the House and in writing, he's trying to say, one, it was about an individual. Two, he never attacked the institution. That's what he did in that quote. And he's a very articulate person. He knows what he's saying, and he knows what it means when he's saying it. I think he was rising to the sound of his own voice as he was speaking to a home audience. It was almost as if he was chatting in his living room with people from a media outlet that tend to push his point of view. This is dangerous for the Conservatives if they ever hope to form government. You can't have someone saying that even though the police have carried out a thorough investigation, that you know that a crime was committed and that it is a cover-up, because that was the other word that he used, a cover-up, that there was a decision not to prosecute criminally. There is a requirement. You have certain certain heights that have to be met in going over those barriers, and if you don't, you can't prosecute criminally. You know, I have to remind folks that Mr. Poilievre was just a backbencher when most of the things that he's talked about happens. I was the leader of the opposition. And can I share with the people listening tonight, I was a bit frustrated. I thought the Aga Khan Island thing was more than just a scandal that merited a rap on the wrists from the ethics commissioner. But I'm also a lawyer, and I have a son who's been a police officer for 25 years, and I really take offense at hearing one of the most senior politicians in our country attacking an institution, attacking its entire leadership, because that's what he did. He did not single out an individual in a single case. He singled out the leader. He talked about the leadership. I find it offensive, and I find it dangerous for our democracy, because in a free and democratic society, politicians don't get to wake up in the morning and say, I want this one prosecuted, and if you don't do it, it's because you're covering things up and you're not doing your job. And even 9 years later, I'll attack you personally. It's bonkers, and I think he's pushed back a lot of Canadians who might have been willing to give him and the Conservatives a second look. I don't think that sort of behavior is going to help his party in any way, shape, or form.
So there you have it. Mr. Mulcair dropping a couple of truth bombs here in that one. And also giving us some context in that, reminding us that he was indeed the opposition leader at the time that it happened. His take on the Aga Khan thing, of course, different than the take of Elizabeth May with regard to it. And there could be a little bit of partisanship there, but still making the case that when you're talking about criminal investigations, there are thresholds. There are thresholds to be charged. There are thresholds to be arrested, to be charged, for a case to be deemed to have enough to go to trial and then to get a conviction. There are different levels all along that process, and that even the most basic fundamental ones here were not met. The final thing would be a response, question and response by Vashi Kapelas to journalist Robert Benzie, because he had also a good take to sort of sum all of it up.
Or, 40+% of the people who voted for the Conservatives in the last election, Benzie, a lot of them, if you look at public opinion polling, believe that the Conservatives are stronger on law and order, right? They align. I think they have the sense that the Conservatives are aligned more largely with law enforcement, right? That was their messaging last week until this podcast surfaced around all the legislation that was coming in, everything. So I would imagine that some of the pressure to put out this statement came from within caucus, right? And people who themselves felt a little bit uncomfortable with it.
There are a lot of Conservatives who feel uncomfortable about it, Vashi. You and I have spoken to some of them, and Dimitri Soudas, who is the former Prime Minister Stephen Harper's Director of Communications, a close aide of the former Prime Minister, he wrote a scathing op-ed piece in the Star on Friday that was our most read story for much of the day, because so many people were poring over what Dimitri had to say. Basically saying that Mr. Poilievre hasn't evolved and he's not ready for prime time. And frankly, if you want to know how that party blew a 28 percentage point lead that they enjoyed on January 1st of this year and then lost the election, their fourth consecutive defeat, it's comments like that. It goes back to the leader. His campaign team, Jenny Byrne and others, got a lot of blame. I think a lot of it unfairly, frankly. And then you see things like this and you say, you know what, maybe it was the leader. It's not the team, it's him. He's the problem. And I think, look, maybe this helps him with some fringe elements in the leadership review in January in Calgary. But Brian's right. With the general public, the folks watching your show, Vashi, these are people who believe that the Mounties are the law of the land and are enforcing the law of the land, and they're not doing the bidding of any political party. It's just a very, very Trumpian thing to say, and I don't see how it helps him, and that's why he's clarifying and scrambling the way he is. And this is the first time that we've seen him do that in the years. And he's been a very disciplined leader. I think we all can agree. He's good on his talking points. He's a bright guy, but this shows a bit of panic because he messed up. And where did he mess up? On Northern Perspectives podcast, a podcast few viewers of Power Play probably have heard of.
Hey, you never know. You never know. But I do take the point. Okay.
There you have it.
Leader of the opposition.
Oopalai, sorry. And there you have it, kids and cubs. Some real talk, not only from Tom Mulcair, but Robert Benzie here. And I saw that comments relative to that in the chat too. It's like, gee, could it be that Pierre was actually better and more disciplined with Jenny involved than without her? There's a frightening thought. Oh boy. Kids and cubs. I tell you, never a dull moment in Canadian politics. Kids and cubs, I think we are near the end of the show, and once again, not able to do the Beaver International for you today. I keep on pushing it back and hoping that I can get to it, but there's just so much going on. I mean, who would have thought that Pierre would have decided to perform a political Splatfest right in front of our eyes? But there we go. I'm thinking about maybe doing something a little later today, because I do need to get this international stuff off my plate, and I have a feeling that the news is going to be coming fast and furious for a couple of days yet, as a result of this and a couple of other things. And I might have the time today, because I don't have anything major on my schedule. No rehearsals today. It's the one day off. So hopefully, after having 3 in a row, I might have a little bit of time. So stay tuned, kits. I might just take a little break and come back and do the International thing, because I have been promising it to you since I think Thursday or Friday of last week. But for now, trying to keep these in bite sizes. Somebody asked me why. It also helps Mr. Grizzly when he's trying to put out the podcast versions. It seems that episodes that are closer to 2 hours or shorter are a little more compatible and friendly with the software that we use. So, which is the reason I keep on mentioning it, but I'm not very successful at actually accomplishing it, because especially since I'm doing it alone, I sort of get into the production and the reading and whatnot, and then I look up at the timer and it's like, oh crap, I don't have enough time to do the extra. I'm already over. But all right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Kids and cubs, if you would like us to help you, we like to help. So please go to the True North Eager Beavers pod page at podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, with a hyphen between each one of those words, or you can scan this QR code that's been made available thanks to the Ray Girl. And if you scan it, when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth for our podcasts, it will come to you. And that way, if you are on the go, you can go and take on the world and remain informed about what's going on at the same time. It's a twofer, because we like to help. And the fact that we mentioned twofer has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that we spoke about Jamil Giovanni on the show today. Nothing at all to do with him. Nothing. All right, kids and cubs. If you would like to help us in turn, maybe somebody in the comments on our YouTube channel wrote that they appreciate my cheekiness. Well, stick around, because there's a lot more where that came from. I like it when you approve of my cheeky. Thank you very much, kids and cubs. It makes the queen very happy. But if you would, kids and cubs, like to help us, then maybe you would like to follow the advice of Kids Elaine and Cassie and surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. That QR code that just appeared will bring you right there. And there you can click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate it when you do that, because it helps us with the algorithm, and it makes us happy when we see our numbers go up. We won't lie. So thank you for all of that. Now, another place where we like to see our numbers go up is at the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, our little tip jar. And now I gotta give it a little shake. Shake it for tips. Shake it for tips. There we go. All right, kits and cubs. Because we do incur some costs to bring the show to you, we hope that you are in a position to be able to help us with those so that we could break even this year if our content resonates with you and you find something of worth in it, or if you just find us entertaining, or even if you feel sorry for me because I do take pity money. Please, kids, I'm not proud. I'm not proud. Make a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, which you can find at our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, or if you scan the QR code that just appeared up there, it will bring you there. Drop a couple of loonies or toonies in our jar. When the coins hit the bottom, it makes a lovely little jingling sound that lets us know that we are loved and appreciated, and it makes us happy. So thank you very much. Now, if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, kits and cubs, well, we've got a way for you to contribute that way too. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is the way to do that. Just send us a direct bank transfer. Your transaction remains 100% Canadian. No US CE Tech Bros get a cut of your money. And plus, we get 100% of your donation. So it goes further and helps us even more to bring this show to you 5 days a week, plus some little added bonuses and specials along the way. And of course, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, remember that we have memberships available and that we do have our super chat function if you would like to donate that way. We appreciate everything that you are able to donate, and thank you for your generosity and your expressions of encouragement. Now, if you're not able to contribute financially, as we always say, worry pas, mon frère et ma sœur. Do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. Because if you weren't participating and paying attention, I'd just be some guy in his office speaking to himself. And that wouldn't be much fun. This is much more fun to have you, the DAMFAM, interacting. So please keep on participating and by letting us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly. Send us your feedback, or if you have some guest suggestions, please send them to us as well. We welcome everything, and all of your contributions, whether written or financial, go back into the show to make it better. And though we are not able to answer everyone, we do read every single one of your comments, and they make us very happy. The fact that you think about us enough to even write about us makes us very happy, and to tune in. So thank you so much, Kits and Cubs, for all that you do for us. We are very, very grateful. Without you, there is no us. It's really that simple. All right, kits and cubs. Because democracy is something that, sorry. And if you want to reach us on our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and on the Shitter, True North Eager Beaver at Facebook, our original home, or right down here in the chat on the YouTube page, do leave us your thoughts there as well. Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Forever-Canadian.ca is the place you go to, Kits and Cubs, to put your name on that, petition or drive to get a question about keeping Alberta in Canada on a Citizens Initiative ballot relatively soon. 300 signatures are needed, and I'm guessing that there's a few days left to go in the sign-up campaign, so please do show up. All signatures need to be witnessed, so find out where your closest pop-up location is and show up and put your signature on that. And of course, encourage all of your friends and family to sign as well. And of course, the organization is still taking donations because it does cost some money to do that work. If you're able to help, that would be great. Speaking of petitions, our House of Commons petition E-6679 in order to reduce the amount of misinformation being deliberately peddled by MPs is up and awaiting your signature. Kits and Cubs, we are close to 36,000 signatures now on that. And do remember, Kits and Cubs, that if you are not yet 18, you can still sign the petition, which is one of the ways that you can get back, that you can participate in democracy. And if you are not a Canadian citizen, but you are a permanent resident, you can also sign the petition. So there's ways for people who usually don't have an opportunity to vote to still participate in democracy with regard to these petitions. And I have put a link to the petition up in our chat here for all of you to be able to share it and sign it yourselves if you have not yet. Mr. Grizzly and I both have already. All right, and of course, oh yeah, we didn't give any results on that. That's another thing I need to make a note of to find out, because yesterday there were municipal elections in Alberta, and I did not check out any of the results, so I can't bring any to you. But there are municipal elections on November 2nd in the province of Quebec, and November 3rd is the Yukon territorial election. So please do what you need to do to practice democracy there. And hopefully I will have an opportunity to check in on Alberta elections and bring you municipal elections and bring you a few results from that as well over the course of some upcoming shows. All right, let's see. Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom. I really don't have any today, kids and cubs. I'm sort of drawing a blank, but how about this one? Words of wisdom. Don't make accusations against people that you cannot back up with irrefutable and incontrovertible evidence. There you go. We'll learn something from PP today. We'll try to learn something from PP today. Kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, kids and cubs, at the count of 3, if you would, please say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Oh, I hear you. I hear you, kids and cubs. And since you did it with such vim and vigor, I must respond with kindness. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Just a tiny little Easter egg for you kids and cubs. Are any of you theater fans? Remember that very famous play, Waiting for Godot? Well, kids and cubs, at the No Kings protests in the United States, I think we got a tip that the long-awaited sequel to Waiting for Godot might be coming, and I believe they have a promotional poster for it, and here it is. For those of you who are listening at home, it's a Halloween skeleton wrapped in an American flag with a poor boy cap and glasses holding a sign called Waiting for the Epstein Files. I have a weird sense of humor. So there you go, kids and cubs. Buy your tickets. I hear it's going to be a smash on Broadway. All right, kids and cubs. I'm going to leave you from now. Let's see. It's about 9:47 local time. And I do want to do the International thing. So let's say we'll reconvene at 11. a.m. Eastern time. So about an hour and 15 minutes. That will give me a time to have a little bit of breakfast and put together the couple of stories I want together, and to be able to do the more international aspects, because or else they're just going to pile up and I'm never going to find a time. So I have enough of them to warrant a small little special. So we'll have some bonus beaver today in about an hour and 15 minutes, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, rest up and I will be back. And now, amour et bisous, and I have to go. Bye.